going down. Starting right now. We ain't just been taking shots, just chilling, dog. You know what I'm saying? Bro. Nigga, we in this bitch, we chilling.
It's my mama. What the fuck is her wig? I got a baby on my shit. I promise
It ends with a deadly stabbing spree. Now the manhunt is on to find the killer.
Investigators say the person attacked 4 people, killing 2 of them, a man and a woman.
Imagine this. It's a warm August night in Detroit, 2025. Music floats through the air, blending with the sound of splashing water and bursts of laughter. Friends gather around a backyard pool, drinks in hand, soaking in the last weeks of summer. For anyone scrolling through their phones that evening, the live stream looked like nothing more than a joyful celebration. A group of people dancing, smiling, and living in the moment. But if you could freeze that video, if you could pause it at just the right second, you'd see something chilling. Standing only a few feet apart are 3 people, each with their own reason for being there, each unaware that this night will be their last. One is the proud host, another is a young mother seeking a rare evening of fun, and the third is the man who will end both their lives before morning. This isn't just the story of a crime. It's the story of how ordinary moments can hide extraordinary danger. It's a story about loyalty, pride, and the choices we make in seconds that can never be undone. And before this tale is over, you'll have to decide for yourself. Was this an act of protection or a burst of uncontrollable rage? Before we dive deeper into Jakiria Williams' story, if you're fascinated by true crime and want to keep getting updates about cases like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We're on a mission to reach 10,000 subscribers. And your support will help these stories reach more people who care about real-life mysteries, tragedies, and the lessons they teach. Don't miss out. Join our community and follow along as we uncover the truth behind each chilling case. Jakiria Williams was a dependable presence. A Detroit native in his early 30s, he carried himself with the relaxed confidence of someone who knew how to bring people together. Those closest to him knew him as a father first, proud of his young daughter, protective and deeply tied to his family. On August 9th, he was in his element. He had rented a house on Detroit's east side, near 7 Mile and Fleming, a neighborhood that came alive on weekends with block gatherings and summer parties. His social media posts that day reflected his excitement, playful captions, quick video snippets, and a subtle reminder to his guests to respect my thing. For Jakiria, this wasn't just another summer get-together. It was his night to host, to give friends a space to enjoy themselves, and to make memories. The live stream showed him smiling, hyping up the crowd, moving from group to group like a conductor guiding a summer symphony. But there's something live streams can't capture: the tension building just outside the frame. Across the city, Martisha Payne, 25 years old, was also getting ready for the night. A devoted mother to her 6-year-old daughter, Casey, she didn't often get the chance to go out. Casey needed her full attention. She was a child who depended on her completely, and Martisha embraced that responsibility with everything she had. That evening, she let herself step back from the constant demands of motherhood, just for a few hours. She had her nails freshly done, picked out an outfit she loved, and filmed herself in the car with her partner, music playing in the background. For her, the pool party wasn't just about fun, it was about freedom, even if only briefly. A reminder that she was still young, still able to laugh, still able to dance under the summer sky. She had no way of knowing that by the end of the night, her name would be in headlines across Detroit. Then there was Daiwan Hobson. To those who only saw him in the party videos, he appeared relaxed, smiling alongside Jakiria, even referring to him as brother. But there was more beneath the surface. Hobson had been out of prison for barely a month, serving over a year for a violent assault involving strangulation. Part of his probation conditions meant avoiding situations with alcohol, but here he was, at a party where drinks flowed freely. More notably, he didn't arrive alone. He brought his mother. It's not unheard of for older relatives to attend gatherings, but in the atmosphere of a pool party filled with young adults, her presence stood out. People noticed. Confused glances were exchanged. And as the night went on, that seemingly harmless detail would become the center of everything. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the pool deck grew more crowded. Music pounded through portable speakers, glasses clinked, and laughter echoed across the neighborhood. The live streams continued, drawing in viewers online. On the surface, it was just another summer night in Detroit. But in every crowded party, there are small moments, barely noticeable, that can snowball into something much bigger. For this party, it began when Martisha, who had been drinking, accidentally bumped into Hobson's mother. Some witnesses claimed it was nothing, a brief misstep, quickly brushed off. Others insisted the contact was repeated, maybe even deliberate, and that words were exchanged. Whatever the truth, that single moment shifted the energy. The mood turned. The once carefree host, the devoted young mother, and the friend with a violent past were now caught in a chain reaction that none of them could stop. And what happened next would change all of their lives forever. For a few seconds after the stabbing, the backyard was a blur of sound, shouts, gasps, the thud of running feet. But just as quickly there was a strange silence, not the peaceful kind, the heavy, suffocating quiet that follows something violent. The music had stopped. The splashing in the pool was gone. All that was left was the labored breathing of the injured, the metallic scent of blood in the humid summer air, and the shock settling over every single person still standing. Some witnesses say that after the blade struck him, Jacuria Williams staggered backward, clutching his side. He didn't collapse right away. His instincts pushed him toward his phone, still in his hand from live streaming earlier in the night. With trembling fingers, he typed something. A jumbled mix of letters and symbols that made no sense to anyone reading it later. Those who knew the truth believe he was trying to send a message, maybe to call for help, maybe to tell someone what had happened, but his strength was already leaving him. Within minutes, he was on the ground, his breathing shallow, the glow of his phone screen fading beside him. Just a few feet away lay Martisha Payne. For her, there was no time to even react. One moment she was part of a heated argument she didn't fully start. The next, she was a victim caught in the crossfire of someone else's rage. Friends who rushed to her side later said her green-painted nails, the ones she'd shown off just hours earlier, were still bright under the patio lights. It was one of the last images they'd remember of her. A cruel reminder of how quickly joy can turn into tragedy. The knife didn't stop at them. 2 more guests were stabbed, names not released publicly, one critically injured, the other left with deep wounds but stable enough to speak to paramedics. They would survive, but their lives would never be the same. In less than 5 minutes, the party had transformed into a crime scene. At 9:52 p.m., the first emergency call hit Detroit Police Dispatch. The voice on the line was frantic, barely coherent. Multiple people stabbed, the attacker gone, blood everywhere. Units were dispatched immediately. The rental property's address was well known to some officers. It was a house frequently rented for parties. Neighbors had complained about noise, traffic, and reckless behavior before, but none of them had imagined this. Within minutes, patrol cars turned onto the block, sirens piercing the still summer air. Neighbors stepped out onto their porches, drawn by the flashing lights. Inside the taped-off yard, officers moved fast, checking pulses, applying pressure to wounds, calling for more medics. But for 2 victims, it was already too late. The sight was brutal, blood pooling across the deck, drinks overturned, towels stained crimson. Chairs were knocked over, cell phones lay abandoned where people had dropped them in the chaos. Witnesses gave police a name almost immediately: Daiwan Hobson. Some were hesitant at first, unsure whether to speak out. Detroit can be a place where people fear retaliation. But others were blunt. It was him, one partygoer told officers. We were all standing there. He said it was about his mama. Security cameras from nearby homes caught brief, grainy footage of a man running down the street. The images weren't perfect, but they matched the description. Tall, wearing dark clothes, disappearing into the night with nothing but the knife and his adrenaline. By early morning, police had issued a $5,000 reward for information leading to his arrest. The city was now on alert, and Hobson's name was circulating everywhere, from street corners to social media feeds. But what happened next wasn't unity, it was division. Online, a war of words broke out. Some defended Hobson, claiming he was a son protecting his mother from a group of drunk partygoers. Others condemned him as a violent man who had been looking for an excuse to explode. The debate was fierce, emotional, and often ugly. But while strangers argued about who was right, two families were facing a reality no parent should ever endure. By sunrise on August 10th, the flashing red and blue lights were gone from the street. The rental house sat silent, and the pool was still. But inside two Detroit homes, the grief was only just beginning. When the news reached Kimberly Williams, she didn't want to believe it. Jacuria wasn't just her son, he was her second son lost to violence. She had buried one child before. Now she would have to do it again. Neighbors said Kimberly's voice carried down the block that morning, a cry no one could mistake for anything but a mother's heartbreak. Later, speaking through tears to a local reporter, she repeated the same words over and over. He was kind. He was kind.
Interview with the family of one of the victims, plus what the property owner told her went wrong at the party.
Another neighborhood reeling from another night of violence.
With this being so close to home, that was really scary for me.
Just before 10 p.m. near this home, police say someone stabbed 4 people. At last check, Detroit police reports a man is expected to survive, while another is in critical condition. Meanwhile, a woman in her 20s died. 31-year-old Jakari Williams also killed. In a sit-down with Local 4, his mother, Kimberly Williams, shares how she'll have to bury yet another son.
He was kind. He was kind. He was kind.
Neighbors say this home is known for being a house available for rent to throw parties.
$1 million cash.
It's loud, it's rowdy. They block up the street, they fly down the street. They have no respect for the neighborhood.
Saturday night, their worst fear came true. Past the crime tape, property owner Alvin Taylor takes us inside, claiming Williams hosted the pool party for close family and friends. It reportedly wrapped just moments before the violence erupted out front.
Just unfortunate, they were all together. It was all, it was a family thing.
It was a family thing.
It was a family event. It ain't like it was a bunch of young people running around.
Meanwhile, investigators say they know who they're looking for, and so does the Williams family.
I want them to get caught.
It was all she could manage, because how do you explain a son who was just trying to stop a fight, dying for it? Across the city, Starlette Jones was facing her own devastation. Her daughter, Martisha Payne, was gone, and in an instant, Starlette had inherited full responsibility for her 6-year-old granddaughter, Casey. Casey was too young to fully understand, but she knew her mother wasn't coming home. Friends described Martisha as someone who had survived so much in her short life, only to have it all end in seconds over something so senseless. Now Starlette's house would be filled with the sounds of a child growing up without her mother, and the heavy quiet of a woman mourning her daughter every day. While the families planned funerals, Alvin Taylor, the owner of the rental property, was dealing with his own kind of shock. Speaking to local media, he insisted this was never meant to be a wild party. According to Taylor, Jacuria had rented the house for a family thing. Close friends, relatives, nothing out of control. In his words, it wasn't a bunch of young people running around, but rather a gathering that should have been safe. The violence, he said, erupted outside after the pool party had mostly wrapped up. But to the neighborhood, it didn't matter. The house already had a reputation for loud parties and disrespect toward residents. Saturday night had just confirmed their worst fears. In the days that followed, the conversation shifted from grief to anger and then to argument. On social media, the city split into 2 camps. One side claimed Hobson was simply defending his mother from a drunken woman who crossed the line. The other side saw him as a ticking time bomb, someone with a violent history who used a small incident as an excuse for murder. Screenshots from the live streams were dissected frame by frame. People circled faces, drew arrows, and built their own theories about what really happened. But amid the speculation, one fact stood unshakable. 2 people were dead, and no matter which side of the argument you were on, nothing could bring them back. Deputy Chief Williams addressed the public. This was a pool party. There was an argument over a woman. From that argument, one male suspect stabbed 4 of our victims. 2 fatally, 2 non-fatally. Everyone involved was an adult. It was as straightforward as a police statement could be.
Officers came and they made the location. Upon making the location, we discovered we had several individual stabs. So after the preliminary investigation, we had 4 people stabbed. 2 were stabbed fatally and 2 were stabbed non-fatally. Of the 2 that were stabbed non-fatally, 1 is in critical condition and the other one is stable. Everybody was adults. 3 of the victims were in their 30s, 1 was in their 20s. This was basically a pool party that was taking place, and there was an argument that started over a woman who was at the pool party. From that argument, one male suspect stabbed 4 of our victims. We do have a person of interest, and we have that person identified. So they're not in custody, but we are.
But reality was never that simple. Behind those words were 4 separate stories, each with its own pain, each with its own version of the truth. The question hanging over the city wasn't just who was right, it was how do we stop this from happening again? How do you teach people to walk away before it gets this far? How do you convince someone that pride, ego, and protecting family aren't worth a lifetime in prison or a coffin in the ground? It's a question that doesn't just belong to Detroit, it belongs to every community. The uncertainty was the worst part. For some, the thought of Hobson still out there brought fear. For others, especially those who believed he was protecting his mother, it brought a strange kind of loyalty. The kind that keeps people from speaking to the police, even when they know where someone is hiding. Detroit wasn't just waiting for an arrest, it was holding its breath, wondering what Hobson might do next, and whether the next headline would be his capture, or something worse. When tragedies like this happen, the easiest answer is to blame the heat of the moment. But the truth is, moments like these are built long before the knife comes out. Hobson's history mattered. He'd served time for a violent assault against a woman, a conviction for bodily harm by strangulation. That kind of history doesn't just disappear. The instincts, the temper, the learned response to conflict, they're still there, simmering under the surface. Add alcohol to the mix. Add the presence of his mother in a space filled with younger, drunker guests. Add a minor physical incident that feels, in his mind, like a direct insult to his family. Those are the ingredients for escalation. As days turned into a week, police kept their search quiet. They didn't broadcast every move. They couldn't. If Hobson knew how close they were, he'd vanish again. For the victims' families, that silence was unbearable. They wanted updates. They wanted to know someone was working day and night to bring him in. And behind closed doors, detectives were doing exactly that. Building the case, tracking phone records, interviewing anyone who might have seen or spoken to him since that night. They weren't just looking for a fugitive. They were trying to make sure this wouldn't turn into another headline about violence in Detroit. The crime scene tape was gone. The blood had been washed from the deck. The house at 7 Mile and Fleming went back to being just another rental property in Detroit. But for the families of Jacuria Williams and Martisha Payne, nothing returned to normal. If you've stayed with me through this story, ask yourself one question. When the moment comes, when pride and anger start to boil, will you walk away? Or will you pick up the knife? Because in the end, it's not just about what happened here. It's about what could happen to any of us if we forget that 1 second can change everything. To the families of Jacuria Williams and Martisha Payne, may you find peace. To Casey, may you grow up knowing your mother's love, even in her absence. And to everyone listening, may you never be on either side of a story like this. Stay safe, stay aware, and I'll see you in the next story.